Hi, welcome to Regular Magazine. I'm Jason, and today I'm going to go through one of the projects I'm going to start probably either before or just after Christmas. I'm tending to make a 15mm fantasy army, but based on using the original white box Warhammer Fantasy rules. So this is kind of a bit of old, sort of going old hammer in 15mm. And I'm tending to use the Copperstone Castings miniatures range, 15mm range. Probably barbarian, going with barbarians, and I might use some of the picks because they're kind of similar. So because I can go with trolls, I can get cavalry, I can get infantry out of it, as well as some of the character pictures. I've already picked up some of the a pack of the characters, and I've got the trolls as well. So just going to quick look at what basically White box Warhammer. We'll just take a quick look at that box set, which I still have a copy of. I didn't really play it when I bought it back in as a kid, mainly because when I bought it, second edition then came out not long after, and a couple of my friends bought second edition. We ended up playing second edition. So I never really got to use my original set of the white box original set. And we moved on to second edition as soon as it came out. So let's take a look at the second, first edition Warhammer box set. So we have the original box, the first edition of Warhammer. This is one of the. I really like this box set. I like the cover art. It's Harry the Hammer on the front. Taking out skeletons. It's a really iconic piece of artwork, and it's so very reminiscent of old school Warhammer. So we just flick the box over. So on the back, it tells us complete game system for fantasy adventuring and wargaming, and there are 3 books. So Volume 1 is Tabletop Battles. That's all the rules for actually playing out the battles. Then there's a Volume 2 it covers all the magic rules, and then Volume 3 covers things like characters, magic items, and advancements for characters. But because this was slightly different to what the more recent editions of Fantasy were, this was more character driven, building armies around your sort of warlord commander, and that sort of changed over time to what we know as Warhammer Fantasy Battles in its last edition before it changed to Age of Sigmar. So let's get the box open and see what's inside. So if we go with the first book, so like I said, the first volume takes us into mass combat. It also covers fighting in dungeons, which obviously more modern versions of Fantasy Battles didn't do. Fantasy Battles was more pitched battles, but in this original edition, which is what I really like, is you could go dungeon delving, fighting in dungeons with small war bands. So the contents gives us an introduction, which is basically introduction to the game, like in any other war game rule set. And then we go movement, psychology, morale, shooting, combat, tabletop battles, fighting in dungeons, and then we got rules for flying creatures, and then we have a module to play out, Ziggurat of Doom, and then at the back is creature lists. And so you can see that, I mean, the layout it is very old school. The artwork's very old school, but it's still, I mean, as you look through it, it hasn't really, it's a rule set, it hasn't really changed that much in layout structure. It goes through the different phases of battles, magic, combat, all the rest of it. What I really like about this is the simplicity of this game. It's a lot less simple and easier to play than more modern renditions of Warhammer Fantasy. So there's your Tabletop Battles, 2 pages. Fighting in Dungeons is a page, and it just basically gives us some simple rules to do with doors, tunnels, and darkness and light. And then obviously we get the Ziggurat of Doom, which is a whole campaign or scenario to play, which is basically dwarves versus goblins. And then we get a creature list. And this one goes all the way, all the different types of creatures you can play. Because one of the things that the original rules did is that you didn't necessarily need to be playing 2 armies in pitched battle. You could literally have like a small sort of a band of warriors going up against large monsters instead of another whole battle. So it was a lot more scope for sort of narrative driven gaming. So the second book is the magic book, and that gives us a complete magic system as well as spells and different types of magic users. So the first page, Wizards of Magic. The night is a random generation, spells, necromancy, and enhanced objects. So Wizards of Man, it will give us the types of wizards. It will give us things like levels. And obviously, different levels means you will have different spells available to you. And this gives us the whole rules for that, including. And like I said, it's a lot simpler system than what later editions became, and that's why I like this edition. It's very simple. It's very sort of straightforward. You don't have the complexity of 1,000,001 rules to have to learn to play it. And obviously, we then get final volume is characters. And this includes character advancement, skills, magic items, and heroes. So we get our introduction. Let's start the contents page. So we get introduction, then we've got player characters, character advancement, creating adventures, encounter charts, and then we get another scenario to play out. This time, this scenario will include using heroes or player characters. So we get our induction. Then it gives us some rules and information about player characters. So we have their characteristics, their fighting characteristics, and the skills, and then all the different rules to actually build your characters, I think, including money and stuff like that, and then advancement rules. So it's a war game with RPG elements to it, which is, I think, is why I quite like it. It's got the best of both worlds sort of thing. So we get counter charts, and this gives us all of our tables, everything that we could possibly come across, and then no matter where and what sort of region and terrain we're likely to encounter, and what types of monsters or villains we're likely to encounter. And then we get another scenario. And this is introduce the idea of adventure gaming with the use of characters and building around characters. So we have a more narrative RPG style of game rather than a traditional battle. And that's what I really like about these rules. You could use them for one or the other. You didn't have to only play mass battle. You could also bring in a more narrative way of playing the game. So that gives us all of the info for that adventure, and all the floor plans and stuff. So that's basically what first edition was. So we had a quick rundown of what rule system I'm going to be basing the army for. The next is to take a look at some of the military range of what I'm going to be using. I've got a couple of blister packs to look at, so let's basically get on and take a look at those miniatures and see what the Copperstone miniatures look like. So at the moment I've got two blister packs from Copperstone. The first one are the 15 are the Northlander characters, basically barbarians, and the second one are the Ice Tribe warriors. Now I'll just take these out. We can see that I've got a mix of male and female characters from this range within this pack. These are a really nice sculpt. Just get these up. There. As you can see there, for 15mm they're really nice. There's a bit of flashing on there that will need to come off these miniatures, but I mean overall they're nicely sculpted. There's a lot of detail on there. And this was one of the reasons why I opted for this particular range, because the quality was really good. And yes, there is a bit of flash on there that needs to be removed. Some bits of mould line in some places, but overall there's not really a lot of work to do on them. And they look really nice. They are your standard typical looking barbarians. So move those to one side. We'll take a look at the Ice Tribe warriors. Now, even though these are a different faction, they're not too dissimilar, to be honest. I mean, they've sort of very sort of barbarian, Viking-y sort of look and feel to them. Again, there are some elements of flash that will need to be removed. Like I said, they're quite nice. They're not too dissimilar. They can't be in the same army together. And at 15mm, they're really nice sculpts. Now, like I said, they're really nice sculpts. There's a bit of flash on there and a bit of some mould lines to work on there. There are in this pack the Icelandic, the warriors, which is just a troop unit. There are some repeats. I mean, we've got some in amongst them. There are some repeats, but in the different types of miniatures. But that's not a massive issue. I mean, these are going to be rank and file sort of troops, so it doesn't really matter if there's some duplicates. I plan to get a couple of these packs of these, so that I can put together all the guys with hand weapons into one unit, and then all the spearmen into another unit. So if I get 2 packs, that should give me 2 small units. So that's basically what my 15mm fantasy army project is going to be for next year. I'll basically do some updates as I paint them, and then as I purchase new units. So we'll do a review of each unit before we move on to painting them, and I'll do that over the next few months, I think. The Copperstone miniatures are really quite cheap. They work out at about £7 a blister. So that's roughly £7 a unit. I mean, to play Fantasy Battles and it costs you only £7 a unit, that's really quite cheap, and it's another reason for choosing 15mm. So I plan to make those, and it'll be a sort of barbarian, sort of Norse force. Then I'm probably going to make another one, and I'm not sure yet what the second army will be. And I'll be covering also some terrain as part of this project, and I'm going to vlog it all the way through to the end. That includes this army, the second army, and then the terrain, and I'll also be writing up about it in the magazine, so you can follow along and see how I get along with this. I'm not sure what pointage I need to work out how many points and how big an army I'm going to make it. Probably going to go around about 1,000 points, maybe 1,500 points. I need to be sort of have a quick look back at what the rules are for points in the original. Like I said, I haven't looked at this for a long time, so I need to have a quick look at that, and I'll talk about that more in the next video, when I talk about how, once I've worked out basically what the pointage is or how big I'm going to do it, because I haven't decided yet, and what units I want in there. Because there is a possibility I could put a giant in, because I think it's the Picts, Icelanders, they have the ability to bring a giant. There's a giant in that range, so I may put a giant in. I'm not too sure yet, but it's going to be definitely cavalry, archers, and then I've got three ice trolls, which I haven't filmed today, but I'll show them off next time, in the next video, when I go to paint them. And that'll be, and I'm not sure what else I'm going to add in then after that, but I will talk about that later, in a later video. So anyway, that's part one of this particular project, and I'll see you next time. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and don't forget to download the magazine.